A rogue cop brutally assaults a young woman by her car. He sneers, unaware her father, Steven Seagal, is watching nearby, a storm of retribution gathering in the martial arts legend's eyes, ready to protect his own. The calm of an early spring afternoon in Eagle Creek, a small California town simmering with an undercurrent of unspoken tensions, was about to be shattered. Officer Jack Kincaid, badge number 347, was a man known less for his peacekeeping and more for his volatile temper and an unpleasantly heavy hand, a simmering resentment looking for a target. He cruised the quiet streets not as a guardian, but as a predator seeking an outlet. Across town, Maya Seagal, 20 years old, vibrant and focused, had just finished a demanding martial arts seminar at the local college. Daughter of the legendary Steven Seagal, she'd inherited his poise and a quiet strength that training since childhood had honed to a razor's edge. Tall, with striking dark hair and her father's intense eyes, she moved with a fluid grace that spoke of discipline. She rarely mentioned her lineage, preferring to navigate the world on her own considerable merits, a path of balance, respect, and the avoidance of needless conflict. Dressed in simple sweats and a hoodie after her workout, she pulled into a small plaza, intending only to grab a smoothie before heading home. But trouble, in the uniformed shape of Officer Kincaid, had already marked her. As Maya exited the smoothie shop, keys in hand, Officer Kincaid's cruiser slid into the lot, lights not flashing, siren silent. He hadn't been dispatched, no call had been made. He simply saw a young woman in casual athletic wear walking towards a high-performance black SUV and, in the warped antechamber of his mind, decided she was suspicious. "Hey, you!" Kincaid barked, stepping out of his vehicle, his hand already resting near his holstered weapon. Maya turned, her expression calm, betraying no alarm. "Yes, officer." "Trying to break into that vehicle?" His tone was aggressive, accusatory. Maya arched an eyebrow. "No, officer. It's mine. License and registration. Now." "Certainly." She reached into her pocket for her wallet. "Slowly." Kincaid snapped, his voice sharp with unearned authority. "Don't make any sudden moves." Maya paused, her hand halfway to her pocket. "I'm just getting my ID, officer." Before she could utter another word, Kincaid closed the distance, grabbed her arm in a bruising grip, and spun her violently. "Hands on the hood. Now." "What are you doing?" Maya protested, shocked by the unprovoked aggression. "I haven't done anything wrong." "You're resisting arrest," he snarled. Instinctively, she tried to pull her arm free from his painful grasp. That was all the pretext Kincaid needed. He slammed her, hard, against the hood of her SUV. Her elbow impacted the cold metal with a sickening crack. A pained grunt escaped her lips. He wrenched her arm behind her back, twisting her wrist with brutal force. Maya cried out, a sharp sound of agony that cut through the placid afternoon. It was then that the first bystander's phone emerged, camera lens glinting. Inside a nearby cafe, a retired martial arts instructor, who had once attended a seminar hosted by Steven Seagal and had briefly met Maya there, recognized her disciplined stance even in distress. He saw the raw, unwarranted aggression of the officer. His blood ran cold. He knew Maya's lineage. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers flying across the screen, making a call that would change everything in Eagle Creek. Minutes later, a matte black SUV, heavily armored and with deeply tinted windows, screeched into the plaza, its powerful engine a low growl that cut through the rising tension. The driver's door swung open, and Steven Seagal emerged. He wore a simple black jacket, his eyes shielded by dark, impassive glasses. His hands were calm at his sides, but his powerful jaw was clenched, his stance low and rooted, radiating an almost palpable aura of controlled fury. His gaze, sharp and penetrating, immediately found Maya. She was on the ground now, Kincaid's knee pressing cruelly into her back, her lips split and bleeding, face contorted in pain but her eyes still holding a spark of defiance. Seagal saw the bruises forming, the crimson trickle from her mouth. He saw the uniformed man standing over his daughter, a man utterly oblivious to the maelstrom he had just unleashed. The air around Seagal seemed to drop several degrees. Every line of his body spoke of a primal rage, meticulously contained but straining for release. Seagal didn't run. He didn't shout. He moved forward with the silent, inexorable deliberation of an avalanche. Each step was measured, heavy with unspoken intent, his formidable presence a tangible force that seemed to warp the air around him. Bystanders, sensing the shift, instinctively stepped back, their phones still recording, now capturing a new, far more dangerous dynamic. Officer Kincaid, startled by the sudden arrival of the imposing SUV and the equally imposing figure emerging from it, turned, his face a mask of arrogant irritation. "Sir, stand back," he barked, puffing out his chest, his hand reflexively moving to his holstered sidearm. "This is official police business. Stay out of it." Seagal didn't break stride. He didn't even glance at Kincaid's hand. His dark glasses reflected the scene, but his own eyes, fixed on his daughter, were invisible, adding to his unnerving aura. He stopped a few feet from Kincaid, a silent monolith of controlled power. "That," he said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that seemed to vibrate in the chest of everyone present, "is not police business." He paused, letting the words hang heavy. "That is personal." Kincaid scoffed, trying to maintain his bravado, but a flicker of unease touched his eyes. The sheer, unyielding intensity emanating from Seagal was unlike anything he'd encountered. "I said, stand back, or I'll arrest you for obstruction." Seagal took one slow, deliberate look at Maya, still pinned, her face streaked with dirt and blood, her eyes burning with a mixture of pain and humiliation. That look, a father's look, was all it took. The control tightened, the fury within him solidifying into something cold and sharp. He turned his full attention back to Kincaid. "I am her father," Seagal stated, each word dropping like a stone into a deep well. His voice, though quiet, resonated with an unmistakable, bone-chilling authority. He then added, his gaze pinning Kincaid in place, "and the young woman whose rights you are so clearly violating? Her name is Maya Seagal." The legendary surname hung in the air, a thunderclap in the sudden silence. Officer Kincaid blinked, the name, Seagal, echoing. For a moment, denial warred with a dawning, terrifying realization. He tried to bluster, "I don't care if you're the King of England." She resisted, Anne. His words were cut short by the wail of approaching sirens. Two more Eagle Creek PD cruisers screeched to a halt, lights flashing, disgorging uniformed officers. Captain Marcus Thorne, a veteran cop with a weary face and graying temples, stepped out of the lead car. Thorne had known Steven Seagal for over a decade. Years ago, Seagal had conducted a series of rigorous, no-nonsense defensive tactics and de-escalation seminars for his department, seminars Kincaid had clearly slept through or arrogantly dismissed. Thorne's eyes widened as he took in the scene, Maya Seagal, bruised and restrained, Officer Kincaid, posturing belligerently, and Steven Seagal, radiating a silent, lethal fury that Thorne recognized all too well. The captain felt a cold dread wash over him. He knew Seagal's capabilities, both physical and influential. This was a catastrophe. "Steven," Thorne said, his voice strained as he approached cautiously, I am so sorry. What in God's name happened here?" Seagal's gaze, like frozen steel, shifted to Thorne. "You tell me, Captain," he said, his voice flat, devoid of any inflection. "You're supposed to be watching your men. Or have you forgotten the first principles of protect and serve?" He gestured towards Kincaid. "This officer assaulted my daughter without cause, without warning. It's all on video." Thorne looked at Kincaid, his face grim. "Officer Kincaid, your badge and weapon. Now." "But Captain..." Kincaid began. "Now, Kincaid." Thorne's voice was an iron command. Reluctantly, shamefully, Kincaid complied. "You're suspended, pending a full investigation." "A suspension?" Seagal's expression, if possible, grew even colder. He watched as Kincaid was led, protesting, to a squad car. The crowd murmured, phones still held aloft. Captain Thorne turned back to Seagal, his face etched with concern and a hint of damage control. "Steven, we will get to the bottom of this. I assure you, there will be a thorough internal." "There's no internal investigation needed, Captain," Seagal cut him off, his voice still low but carrying the finality of a death knell. "The evidence is already in the hands of a dozen citizens. The truth is self-evident." He looked at Maya, who was now being gently helped to her feet by a paramedic, her arm cradled protectively. His gaze softened infinitesimally, then hardened again as he faced Thorne. "This isn't just about one rogue officer having a bad day, Thorne. This is about a systemic rot. And it stops now." Seagal reached into his black jacket and retrieved a slim, expensive-looking phone. With a few taps, he made a call. "Marcus, it's Steven," he said into the phone, his voice calm but with an undercurrent that promised relentless action. "Eagle Creek. We have a situation. My daughter." "Yes. I need you to fly in. Bring the full team. We're filing a comprehensive civil rights lawsuit. Not just for Maya. For every single resident of this town who has been subjected to this kind of abuse and silenced." He listened for a moment, then said, "Good. I want a TRO against Officer Kincaid by morning, and I want discovery opened on the entire department's complaint history. This isn't just a lawsuit, Marcus. This is a cleansing." He ended the call, his eyes never leaving Captain Thorne's increasingly pale face. The battle for Maya's immediate safety was over, the war for lasting justice had just begun. Within hours, the raw footage from bystander phones and, later, Kincaid's own body cam, reluctantly released under pressure, exploded across the internet. Seagal's daughter assaulted by cop became a trending hashtag worldwide. News outlets descended upon Eagle Creek, transforming the sleepy town into a media circus. Officer Jack Kincaid's sneering face, frozen in a moment of brutal overreach, became the unwilling icon of police misconduct. Steven Seagal's high-powered legal team, led by a renowned civil rights attorney, arrived like a SEAL team executing a precision strike. They didn't just file a lawsuit on behalf of Maya. True to Seagal's word, they established a hotline and a temporary legal aid office in Eagle Creek, inviting other potential victims of police harassment or brutality to come forward. And they did. Tentatively at first, then in a growing stream, people emerged from the shadows, their stories painting a grim picture of Kincaid's pattern of abuse and a wider departmental culture of indifference or complicity. An elderly shopkeeper whose arm Kincaid had twisted for an alleged parking violation. A group of teenagers who had been illegally searched and verbally abused. A young couple whose noise complaint had resulted in Kincaid threatening them with arrest. Each story, previously dismissed or ignored, now became a vital thread in the tapestry of evidence Seagal's team was weaving. Captain Thorne, facing immense public and internal pressure, held a strained press conference. He announced Kincaid's indefinite suspension without pay and pledged a full review of the department's use of force policies and complaint procedures. "We failed Maya Seagal," Thorne stated, his voice heavy. "We failed this community. We will do better." But his words rang hollow to many. The carefully constructed facade of Eagle Creek's law enforcement was crumbling, piece by piece, under the relentless weight of truth and Seagal's unyielding determination. Seagal himself remained largely silent in the media frenzy, issuing only one, brief statement through his attorney: "This is no longer solely about my daughter. It is about every citizen who has the right to walk their streets without fear of those sworn to protect them. My family has the resources to fight this. Many do not. That changes today." True to his word, by the end of the week, Seagal, bypassing the shell-shocked town council, hosted a town hall meeting at Eagle Creek's community center. He stood before a packed auditorium, victims, concerned citizens, local activists, media, even some off-duty officers, with no prepared speech, no teleprompter, no entourage. Just Steven Seagal, a father and a citizen, speaking with a quiet, raw intensity. This system, he said, his voice resonating through the hushed hall, is broken when men like Kincaid can operate with impunity. We can point fingers, we can demand resignations, but that's not enough. We need to rebuild from the ground up, with accountability and strength. Then, he unveiled his plan, the Eagle Creek Empowerment Initiative. Fully funded by Seagal himself, it would offer free legal counsel to victims of police misconduct, trauma and grief counseling services, and, most significantly, comprehensive martial arts-based self-defense and de-escalation training programs for teenagers, women, and vulnerable community members. This town will not just heal, Seagal declared, his eyes sweeping the crowd. It will learn to defend itself. It will become stronger. It will become a beacon, not a cautionary tale. The applause was deafening, a roar of a community finally finding its voice, its hope rekindled by a man who understood that true power lay not in a badge or a weapon, but in unbreakable spirit and collective action. The Eagle Creek Empowerment Initiative launched with immediate effect, even as the legal gears turned with deliberate speed. The sheer volume of credible witness testimony, coupled with the undeniable video evidence and the relentless pressure from Seagal's legal team, forced the district attorney's hand. A grand jury was convened, and within weeks, Officer Jack Kincaid was indicted on multiple criminal charges, felony assault, battery under color of authority, and multiple violations of civil rights. The civil lawsuit moved in parallel, with Seagal's lawyers successfully petitioning the court for an unprecedented level of discovery into the Eagle Creek Police Department's internal affairs records, disciplinary histories, and past complaints. What emerged was a disturbing pattern of unchecked aggression by a small cohort of officers, Kincaid prominent among them, and a systemic failure of oversight and accountability from the top down. Captain Thorne, once a reluctant participant, found himself cooperating more fully, perhaps seeing this as the only way to salvage his department and his own legacy. Kincaid, out on bail but stripped of his authority and facing public disgrace, became a pariah. His attempts to paint himself as a victim of a celebrity vendetta fell flat against the mountain of evidence and the chorus of other victims' voices. The town that had once either feared him or turned a blind eye now openly condemned him. The path to the courthouse was paved with public opinion already firmly set against him. His trial was set, and Eagle Creek held its breath. The Eagle Creek courthouse was a media fortress on the first day of Kincaid's trial. Camera crews jostled for position outside, while inside, every seat was filled. The case had become a national symbol of the fight against police brutality and the quest for accountability. Maya Seagal was the prosecution's first key witness. Dressed in a simple, respectful suit, her previously injured arm now free of its brace but still carried with a certain care, she walked to the stand with a quiet dignity that filled the courtroom. She spoke clearly, her voice unwavering, recounting the events of that afternoon with factual precision, never embellishing, never succumbing to overt emotion. She detailed Kincaid's unprovoked aggression, his escalating violence, the fear she felt, and the pain of his assault. When the defense attorney tried to imply she had been non-compliant or provocative, Maya met his gaze directly. "I was a young woman walking to my car, officer. I was polite. I was cooperative. He was looking for a reason to exert power, and he found it by inventing a threat that didn't exist." Her composure, her articulate testimony, was devastating. Later, Steven Seagal took the stand. He didn't speak as a grieving father seeking vengeance, but as a lifelong martial artist, a trainer of law enforcement, and a citizen demanding systemic change. "My daughter," he began, his voice low and resonant, "has trained for years in disciplines that teach control, respect, and the appropriate use of force. The irony that she became a victim of someone who utterly lacks these qualities is not lost on me." He spoke of the trust placed in those who wear a badge, and the profound betrayal when that trust is violated. What happened to Maya is not an isolated incident. It is a symptom of a deeper sickness. And this trial, this verdict, must be part of the cure. His words, delivered with a calm, irrefutable authority, left the courtroom in profound silence. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. The evidence, particularly the multiple video recordings and Maya's compelling testimony, was overwhelming. When they returned, the courtroom was utterly still. The foreman stood, his voice clear. On the count of felony assault, we find the defendant, Jack Kincaid, guilty. On the count of battery under color of authority, guilty. On the count of violation of civil rights, guilty. A wave of hushed emotion swept through the room, relief, vindication, sorrow. Kincaid sat ramrod straight, his face ashen, his previous arrogance completely shattered. Later that week, he was sentenced to a significant prison term, the judge citing his egregious abuse of power and the profound harm he had inflicted not only on Maya Seagal but on the community's trust in law enforcement. Justice, in this instance, had been swift and decisive. Months later, the Eagle Creek Community Empowerment Center officially opened its doors. The building, a formerly neglected municipal property, had been renovated and revitalized through Seagal's initiative. It buzzed with activity, legal aid clinics, counseling sessions, and in the newly matted dojo, Maya Seagal, poised and confident, taught her first self-defense class to a room filled with teenage girls from the town. Their faces were eager, attentive, a reflection of a community determined to reclaim its strength. At the end of the class, a young girl, no older than 12, shyly approached Maya. "Are you really Steven Seagal's daughter?" she asked, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and admiration. Maya smiled, a genuine, warm expression. "I am," she said. "But more importantly, today, we are all learning to be strong together." That evening, as the sun cast long shadows over Eagle Creek, Steven Seagal stood with Maya on the rooftop of the center, looking out at the town. No words were needed. A measure of peace had returned, but it was a vigilant peace, forged in struggle, and built on the promise that no one in their community would have to stand alone against injustice again. The fight was never truly over, but a powerful legacy had begun. The courage of one, amplified by the voice of many, can indeed move mountains and reshape systems. Maya's resilience and Steven Seagal's unwavering fight for justice brought change to Eagle Creek, but the seeds of such change lie within every community. What steps do you believe are most crucial in holding power accountable and protecting the vulnerable in your own community? Share your insights and personal experiences in the comments below. Show your respect for those who bravely speak truth to power. If this story of a father's resolve and a community's awakening resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more narratives that inspire action and champion justice.